He led a quiet life. But they attacked innocent citizens of his locality.
Just leave us!
Their brutality forced the devil in him to come out and haunt all the murderers on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recaps. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. The movie kicks off in 1974 in a little town in Northern Ireland. Two guys from a mafia crew stroll into a local bar, but what they don't know is that a notorious woman named Doran, her brother Curtis, and their accomplices, Seamus and Kay, are lurking nearby with some shady plans. Seamus and Conan sneakily set a bomb next to the bar and casually walk away. Doran spots a bunch of kids playing close to the rigged car, and in a panic, she yells at them to get out of it. But of course, it's too late. The bomb goes off, taking out the mafia crew and innocent kids in a horrific blast. After that chaos, Doran, Curtis, Conan, and Seamus hop into a getaway car and escape.
Just leave us!
We then meet our main guy, Finbar. He's busy showing off his shooting skills at a local practice session with Sheriff Vincent, who's known for his marksmanship. But Finbar totally steals the show and wins the bet. Later, they head over to Finbar's place to chat about the crazy crime rates around town. That's a total mess, right? Looks like you'll need a metal case. And fast. Later that night, Finbar rolls into a packed bar for a few drinks, clutching a photo with someone's face circled. The bar's announcer calls a famous singer named Bart to the stage, and wow, he's amazing. It turns out that the photo Finbar's holding is actually Bart's. After a while, Finbar drives to a remote spot in the woods and pops open his car trunk to reveal Bart, who's trapped and holding a shotgun. He takes Bart to a hillside, hands him a shovel, and tells him to start digging. Bart soon realizes he's in a graveyard for Finbar's past victims. He asks how many people Finbar has killed, but Finbar stays tight-lipped. In a final heart-to-heart, Bart shares about his troubled youth, saying he used to be hot-headed, but has moved on. Finbar seems to think it over, but then, out of nowhere, he buries the singer in the very spot Bart dug and plants a tree as a grim reminder. At this point, it's clear that Finbar is a hitman, taking out targets for cash. Next, he swings by his manager Robert's house, where Robert's wife, Josie, welcomes him and asks about his favorite dish, promising to whip it up. Kevin, a new guy, comes in and grabs some bread from Josie's basket, which annoys Finbar. Classic impatience from the younger crowd. Finbar chats with Robert, letting him know he's wrapped up the job and notices Kevin taking off in his car. Out of the blue, he suggests Robert hand over future contracts to Kevin. Finbar opens up about his dark past since losing his wife and talks about wanting to leave the killing behind to start fresh. He shares how his wife always wanted him to live a life of helping others. Robert's shocked and asks what his plans are, to which Finbar replies he wants to farm and grow stuff in his garden. Robert appreciates his decision and gives him the payment for the job, wishing him well.
Good job. Give a damn.
The next day, Finbar gets to work on his new farming life, clearing a field and heading into town to grab some seeds. Once back, he visits his sweet neighbor Rita, who invites him for dinner. She's thrilled about his farming plans and asks about his cooking skills, comparing them to his late wife's. Later, Finbar heads to another part of the neighborhood, where he spots a girl named Moya fishing off a bridge. She's struggling, so he offers her a handkerchief to help with the nylon line. Moya explains she needs to catch a fish for dinner. While pulling in the bait, she accidentally drops her food box into the water. Finbar notices some scars on her neck, but she quickly covers them up and runs away. Finbar later meets Moya's mom, Sinead, at her bartending job, and he explains the lunchbox situation, taking the blame for the mishap. Moya follows him, and when they reach her house, her uncle Curtis is hanging around. Finbar senses trouble from him. He's one of the guys behind the bombing. It feels like something big is brewing. Finbar brings a food basket for Moya and hands it to Sinead. The next day, he notices Moya looking scared and hands her a bullet. When he asks about it, she keeps quiet. Curtis shows up, and Moya bolts back inside when she sees him. Curtis asks Sinead for food and casually hints at Finbar being a predator before leaving with the supplies. In the next scene, Finbar shows Robert the bullet Moya gave him and asks for help dealing with Curtis, concerned about what he might do to Moya. But Robert isn't interested and tells him he's out. Later, Finbar keeps an eye on Curtis from a distance, planning something. When Curtis is on his way home, Finbar offers him a ride, and Curtis, being friendly, accepts. During the drive, Finbar shares some stories about his love for shooting and asks Curtis about his interest in guns. He pulls over, opens the trunk, and reveals an extraordinary firearm. Finbar then drives Curtis into the woods, planning something sinister. But Curtis puts up a fight, leading to a showdown. Just then, Kevin shows up explaining that Robert sent him to keep tabs on Finbar. After a tense moment, they end up burying Curtis together and unwind at a bar. While chatting, Kevin expresses admiration for Finbar's skills, revealing he's a fan. He admits he takes lives when he needs cash, but feels like he'll never reach Finbar's crazy body count. This ticks off Finbar, who firmly states that taking a life isn't a joke and warns Kevin that if he ever hears him laughing about someone's death, he'll be in for a serious confrontation. 2 days after Curtis goes missing, Dorian starts to worry. She heads out to look for him and eventually makes her way to Shun's place to ask about her brother. Shun admits she hasn't seen him either, and when she vents her frustration about Curtis, Dorian snaps and grabs her by the neck. Things get tense when Dorian checks Curtis's gun and finds a bullet missing, which makes her even more anxious. After that, Dorian leaves and contacts her boss to get some intel on Curtis. In the next scene, Dorian visits Robert's house to talk about her missing brother. When she brings up Curtis, Robert pretends he doesn't know him and claims his men are busy. Just as Dorian is about to leave, she spots a bullet on the floor that fits her gun perfect. Furious, she points her weapon at Robert, demanding the truth. He admits that Curtis is dead, but insists he didn't do it. He spills the beans that a guy named Finbar was the one who took him out a few days ago. Dorian, enraged, shoots and kills Robert.
Get the bomb.
Now, she and her crew are hell-bent on tracking down whoever killed Curtis. Later, Finbar and Kevin hear about Robert's death from Josie. Finbar tries to comfort her, promising they'll handle things, but she mentions a woman aggressively asking about Curtis, which raises alarms for the guys.
She said she was looking for someone named Curtis.
The ginger jet.
They quickly destroy any paperwork related to their past, future plans, and Finbar advises Josie to call the police.
Call the police once we're gone.
Meanwhile, Dorian convinces Seamus to pretend to be Finbar's nephew when they visit a store. The shopkeeper buys the act and gives them Finbar's address. As Seamus arrives at Finbar's place, he runs into Sheriff Vincent, who's skeptical about Seamus being in town. The group heads to Finbar's house, where they find old war photos. Coincidentally, Finbar is on his way home too. He notices the lights on in his house and senses something's off, urging Kevin to pull over. They wait nearby, watching the house, and during the wait, Kevin shares a story about how he got into a bar fight that landed him a job with Robert. The next day, Dorian is livid that Finbar didn't come home the previous night. She takes out her anger on his car parked outside. Kevin sees this and almost points his gun at her, but Finbar stops him. Just then, Rita steps outside and Dorian confronts her about Finbar. When Rita says something hurtful, Dorian punches her out cold. After she leaves, Finbar and Kevin rush Rita inside, and he anonymously calls for medical help.
God's sake, it doesn't matter. Look, you're a doctor. Just go.
Later, while at Kevin's place, Finbar finds a burned newspaper detailing the Belfast bombing. Curious, he goes to a store and buys the same paper, learning that Dorian and her crew are the prime suspects. Finbar tracks down their hideout, filled with explosives, and then heads to a football match where Dorian and her gang are present. During the game, Conan sees their names and photos in the paper, and it freaks him out. He suggests they bail out of town, but Dorian is dead set on getting revenge for her brother. Finbar spots Dorian at the match and follows her to the restroom. Unfortunately, she sneaks up behind him and aims her gun at him. Finbar insists he didn't kill her brother, but knows who did. Dorian demands the name, and Finbar agrees to bring the guy to a bar that evening. Dorian warns him that if he doesn't show up with the culprit on time, she'll blow the whole place up. Later, Finbar tells Kevin about the meeting with Dorian, explaining he has to take her out. This gets Kevin pumped since he's always wanted to be part of something big. That evening, they meet outside the bar, and although Kevin brings a gun, Finbar says he doesn't need it and hands him a big stack of cash instead, urging him to start fresh in California. This gesture hits Kevin hard, since no one has ever been that kind to him. Finbar then heads into the bar. Meanwhile, Conan, carrying a suspicious bag, heads toward the bar. Outside, Vincent sees Seamus by his wrecked car, and shortly after, he finds the bomb in Conan's bag. Inside the bar, Finbar and Dorian chat, and he suggests moving to the back to talk, but she warns him she'll shoot if he tries anything. Just then, Kevin shows up, taking an interest in Dorian and surprising her by saying her name. When she brushes him off, he boasts that he's the one who killed her brother, which just ticks Dorian off more, leading her to shoot him in the stomach. Chaos breaks loose in the bar as people scramble for safety. Vincent discovers the bomb in Conan's bag, but Seamus intervenes. In the midst of the confusion, Kevin manages to shoot Dorian, and Finbar takes down Conan. Things get really wild when Finbar overpowers Seamus before he can set off the bomb, ripping him to shreds. Kevin, fighting through his wounds, urges Finbar to head to California with the money. Suddenly, Dorian shoots Kevin in the head, killing him. Finbar, furious, goes after Doran, but Conan stops him, so Finbar takes him out too. Moments later, Doran leaves the bar, and Finbar follows her to a church. There, she asks him to shoot her as a way to atone for their sins. Finbar agrees, acknowledging their shared guilt. Unfortunately, Doran bleeds out from her wounds. Finbar buries her in the woods and plants a tree on her grave. In the end, he meets Rita and seeks her forgiveness for not sharing his past. She reassures him that he doesn't need to explain anything, and as the movie wraps up, Finbar thanks her and sets off on a journey to find a fresh start.